Is it possible to go backwards? The reason I ask is because I knew about energies and speaking with spirits and that at a really, really early age. I have a family of that. So is it possible to have my foot in the water in one and then I know you're not supposed to be both.
Not in a mathematical sense. If you look at this idea that you're a bundle of charge, you're sitting in one place and that charge is holding you there. You can, though, from that place, see forward, just as you were standing on railroad tracks, you could see down the railroad tracks to where they converge. So you can see forward and project forward and have a mental idea of that experience. Also, with our culture, you can have lagging behaviors. The two big ones in our culture are behaviors around sex and behaviors around money. And money is a pyramid creation, and so there's a lot of charge that people have around money. So you could be quite expanded, but then have a lot of lagging behavior around money and be very untrusting and tight, and just your behavior doesn't match where you're really at from a place of consciousness.
Oh.
You can only really be in one place, and because it's a self-healing system, and in this lifetime you can't unlearn what you've learned, you might reincarnate back at a point that's more contracted to where you're at. But as you've learned something, like riding a bicycle, you're not going to unlearn that, but you might have behaviors that would have caused you to sort of forget and not ride a bike so well. Fear being one of them. You might be afraid of falling off the bike, so you'll just how the fear takes over, and then of course now you're not riding the bike like you used to, and it appears like you're going backwards, but it's just really that you've essentially taken on the charge of fear.
And also with things like psychic powers, most people have them to some degree innately.
Yes.
So you could be at Radial and you'll be a witch doctor, or you could be at Pyramid and have psychic powers, you could be at Square and have psychic powers, but it's how you're going to use them, it's how you're going to relate to them, where you're going to think they're coming from, like has God given them to you. Everyone's going to see those differently, they're going to use them differently. It's just like intelligence or the ability to paint. Everybody has that, but they're going to use it, they're going to express it differently, they're going to embody it differently. But one of the things that is most confusing for people when they come to our work is not so much about the psychic powers, because, everyone does have those. It's more about the spiritual ideas. So you get a lot of people who are, say, at Diamond, the reflection-based terrain, which is a very mental terrain, and people tend to learn a lot and study a lot, and they can really identify with certain ideologies, and they might have sat in an ashram for 20 years or read every spiritual text in the world for 20 years, and they have a lot of mental understanding of spiritual ideas. So if they were to look at our website or read our book, they might think they were at Infinity, or they might think they were Toroid, but in actual fact they're not at that terrain, they just have some understandings that someone at that terrain would have. And so if they ever one day did shift to that terrain, they'd be like, oh my God, that was nothing like what I thought it was going to be like, because it was just like a mental understanding. So we have identified that in the quiz. So some people might get their quiz result and they may have a very strong identity thinking they're going to come out of spiral because they feel like they're doing all this energy work, blah, blah, blah. And then they get a result saying, actually, you're at Diamond, but you're what we call spiral aware at Diamond. So you have a lot of spiral awareness. You understand a lot about spiral, and you'll probably end up there one day. You're probably being prepared for that, and you can probably get along really well with people at spiral, but actually you're not at that terrain. And so that's going to cause a little bit of challenge for you, because some aspects of you are here, sort of in your mental stuff is here, but you're embodied here, and that can cause some extra challenges that other people don't have who are more integrated at one terrain. So we're really compassionate about that in that report, and a lot of people have written to us and go, oh my God, I realize now I actually am at Diamond. Wow, thank goodness I found that out, because that explains a lot.